Hey there guys, CrossFlux here, and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team. In the last episode, we began our lives as fugitives on the road, and we had to avoid other rescue teams who were coming to track us down. In today's episode, we're hoping to lose sight of them by taking down this pretty fierce looking volcano. So, there are two ways to progress. The one is Mount Blaze itself, and the other is the Rock Path. I'm going to show off Rock Path here real quick, even though it's an optional dungeon, because it kind of goes into a loop. It'll loop back to right where we started. So the only reason you'd want to come here is for extra experience and to pick up a few necessities, such as big apples, orange berries. Now, interestingly enough, you can actually pick up a couple cool goodies here. You can pick up hunger seeds, which is basically like turning the easy switch on certain boss fights, because a hungry enemy can only deal 1 point of damage to you. So those are pretty handy finds. Another interesting find are troll orbs. They're fairly rare, but if, say, you spawn right next to a pair of stairs, then you can use a troll orb to attract every item that's on that floor to your location. So if you don't feel like tracking them all down by going through the floor, you can use a troll orb, pick them all up, and then progress. The only noteworthy Pokemon in this dungeon are the Zubat and the Pidgeots, which we've already seen before in the last episode when we traversed Lapis Cave, so I'm not really going to bother talking about them too much. So, with all the noteworthy stuff out the way, I think I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. Alright guys, after 4 simple floors that are pretty small in size, we make it back to the start. So now we're going to prepare our inventory for Mount Blaze proper. As the name would suggest, it's littered with lots and lots of fire types. Strangely enough though, it's actually filled with a decent number of flying and poison types as well. So grass types are going to have quite an issue with this dungeon. So make sure you're prepared with both Pecha and Frost berries for this dungeon. I'm actually going to bring a sleep seed and a stun seed as well, just in case. You never know when something could get hairy. Alright, so I believe my inventory is completely full. That's alright, one of it's a plant seed, so I can get rid of that almost immediately. Alright, Mount Blaze is a 12-floor dungeon, and the floors are fairly long. It's mostly a bunch of large rooms filled with a bunch of tiny lava passageways. So kind of like how the previous dungeon had lots of water in it, where only Pokemon with the right terrain ability can cross it, Mount Blaze is very similar, seeing as how mostly fire types and floating Pokemon can access lava tiles. However, you want to be careful if your Pokemon's a floater, because even though they can walk on fire tiles, they'll actually get burned in the process. So it doesn't sound like a good thing unless you really need to have your teammates come along. Let's see. You can't actually get too many interesting items from this place. It's mostly filled with gummies, No real food though, like apples or anything like that, which makes sense. It's too hot for there to be apples here. But you can find a lot of red, gray, silver, brown gummies, stuff like that. So this is a nice place for me to scour for gummies for Lizzie. Let's see, what else can you find here? You can find a few rare TMs, usually nothing fantastic unless you get really lucky. That's pretty much it for items though. Mount Blaze has a pretty bland item layout if you ask me. However, the Pokemon here start having a lot, and I mean a lot of HP. Even the Magby here, as you can see, it's a baby Pokemon, but it's taking like a bunch of abuse from Lizzie here and kind of shredding it off. But major threats, I would say, in this dungeon are the Pidgeots, because even though we've seen them for 2 dungeons already, they still are a threat. The Magbies have lots of health, and then in the later floors, the Rapidash can be a bit of a pain if you have a fire-type partner, such as myself, seeing as how they have the Flash Fire ability, meaning that they will actually absorb fire attacks completely and boost their own abilities in the process. Alright, now that I'm burned, I'm going to back off here and let Lizzie take care of that. Let's see, good thing I brought a few raspberries along. Nicely done, Lizzie. Alright, a little bit more information on that Rapidash, as I was starting to talk about. It also has the runaway ability, which means that once you actually manage to whittle it down to half health, it'll just start running away from you, which we've seen quite a few times already before. However, the difference is the Rapidash has such a large amount of health that I usually don't think it's worth it to go hunting them down. Unless you have a water type move or ground type move at your disposal, like I do, it's probably not worth it to go out of your way to try to kill Rapidash. But I think that's pretty much it for major threats of the dungeon. So I think I'll go ahead and speed up now, and I'll meet you guys at the top. Alright guys, very similarly to how Mount Thunder was structured, Mount Blaze is split into 2 tiny different sections, with a 2-floor peak halfway through. Well, I guess not really halfway. After the 12 floors, then you have a 2-floor peak. So the peak itself is obviously, as one would expect, much more threatening than the base of Mount Blaze. The only 2 Pokemon you can encounter in this dungeon are Fearow and Arcanine. Once again, you'll want to leave any fire type moves turned off because Arcanine is similar to Rapidash in that it has the Flash Fire ability. The Fearow is probably the bigger threat out of the 2 though, I would say, because it has access to Fury Attack, as you can see here. Oh man, you just had to do it, didn't you? You just had to show it off because I started talking about it. But yeah, so I think that footage right there speaks for itself. The only items of note that you can find here are red gummies, and lots of them, as well as lots of money. So I think I'm going to try and explore these floors as thoroughly as possible without being too reckless about it, because I want to make sure I don't plow through all of my Oran Berries and Reviver Seeds before I make it to the very top. Let's see. Poke everywhere. Yep. Okay, so maybe I was a little off when I said that the most common items are gummies. Obviously, as you can see, the most common item is Poke, with red gummies coming in at a close second. But surprisingly enough, I haven't actually found any red gummies yet, and I haven't seen any Pokemon on the info screen say that they've picked up any red gummies. So perhaps I've just been a bit unlucky here. But regardless, it looks like we've done a pretty good job at exploring the floor thoroughly already. So I guess we don't have anything else to do but carry on towards the stairs. I definitely recommend being at least somewhat near level 20 before progressing past the peak though, because you're going to want as much HP as you can get your hands on. Come on, water gun, alright. Not bad. I'm starting to actually deal a decent amount of damage with my water gun, which is pretty nice. But guys, before I advance all the way through the top of the peak, I think I'll save the very tippy top for the next episode. Thanks so much for watching guys, hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next video.